15 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters falling down the rankings this week. The first guy is Chris Bryant of the Chicago Cubs. So Chris Bryant, he was off to an amazing start the first 2 months of the season, and the last month here, he's really fallen off and fallen on the season. 16 home runs, 48 RBIs, 53 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, a 264 average, and a 346 on base in the last couple weeks here for Bryant. No homers, 5 RBIs, 3 runs scored, a 200 average, and a 304 on base. And in the last month, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, 215 average, and a 282 on base. So right here, he's banged up a little right now with a hamstring injury. And he's another guy with a lot of trade rumors going around here for Chris Bryant, with teams like Washington, the New York Mets interested in him, and a few other teams. So the last few games for Bryant: July 16th at Arizona 0-4, July 17th at Arizona 0-3, July 18th at Arizona 2-4 with 2 runs and a rib, July 19th at St. Louis 0-4 with an RBI, July 20th at St. Louis 0-1 with a run, and the 21st and 22nd he didn't play in those ball games at St. Louis with a hamstring injury. So right now he's banged up. He's not producing numbers, and now with the trade rumors, maybe he's pressing more. And also, it's a contract season for Bryant as well. But right now, he's definitely a hitter falling. But I think he definitely could turn things around and have a big rest of the season, no matter if he's on the Cubs or another team come next week. The next hitter falling is Joey Gallo of the Texas Rangers. So Gallo, I recommended him as a sell-high candidate a few weeks ago, where he went on a home run tear the last 3 weeks to a month here on the season for Gallo. 24 homers, 52 RBIs, 54 runs scored, a 231 average, which is very good for his standards, and a 386 on base. But now the last couple weeks for Gallo: 1 home run, 1 RBI, 3 runs scored, a 125 average, and a 300 on base. So right here, Joey Gallo was in a slump, and that home run derby could have took a lot out of him. We've seen throughout the years, after some hitters participating in the home run derby, they're never the same the second half of the season, and they're just worn out or just can't produce, whatever the deal is. And the last few games here for Gallo: July 16th at Toronto 0-3, July 18th 1-6 at Toronto in the doubleheader, July 19th at Detroit 0-3, July 20th at Detroit 0-3, July 21st 1-4 with a run, and July 22nd 0-3 with 2 runs scored. So right here, Joey Gallo, he's only got 2 hits here since play resumed July 16th after the All-Star break. And he's in a bad slump right now, and maybe he'll turn things around. But right now, he's a hitter definitely falling this week. The next hit is Jared Walsh of the Los Angeles Angels. So Walsh, another player who got hot and a quick start out of the gate on the season: 22 homers, 66 RBIs, 47 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 271 average, and a 326 on base. But the last couple weeks here for Walsh, he's been non-existent pretty much for fantasy owners. And obviously the Angels: no homers, 2 RBIs, a run scored, a 171 average, and a 194 on base. So right now, he's not working the counts, he's not drawing walks, and his strikeout numbers have gone up a lot as well. And to take it even further, in the last month here for Walsh: 4 home runs, 15 RBIs only, 7 runs scored, a 217 average, and a 242 on base. So right now, he's struggling to get hits, he's struggling to get on base, and the only thing keeping him afloat now over the last month is his power, with 22 on the season and 5 home runs in the month. So right here, the last few games for Walsh: July 19th versus Seattle, 3-5 with an RBI, July 17th versus Seattle 0-5, July 18th versus Seattle 1-5, July 19th at Oakland 0-4, July 20th at Oakland 0-4, and July 22nd at Minnesota 1-4. So right here, he's not hitting the baseball, he's not helping fantasy owners, and hopefully he could turn things around as Walsh. But I don't know if that's going to be the case here in the next few weeks with the tailspin and the slump he's been in. But his power, I still think, will be legit, but the rest of his numbers have definitely taken a hit, and he's a hitter falling this week. The next hit is Rafael Devers of the Boston Red Sox. So Rafael Devers, he's having a good season, but the last couple weeks as well, like Walsh, he definitely hasn't been producing or doing much on the season. For Devers: 24 homers, 74 RBIs, 63 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 279 average, and a 355 on base in the last couple weeks here for Dev. 3 homers, 3 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a 192 average, and a 382 on base. So the only thing that's still pretty good for him is his on base percentage with the 382 in the last couple weeks, and he's not doing anything else except a couple solo home runs here and there as Dev. But Dev he's the engine for this first place Red Sox team, and he's another guy that I think will break out of the slump and stop falling down the rankings like he has over the last few weeks. So the last few games here for Dev: July 16th at the Yankees, 1 for 4 with a run. July 17th at the Yankees, 0 for 2. July 18th at the Yankees, 0 for 1. July 19th at Toronto, 1 for 4 with a homer, an RBI, and 2 runs scored. July 20th, that ball game was rained out. July 21st at Toronto, 1 for 3 with a homer and an RBI. So at least the last few games here, he's got a home run as Devers, and maybe he's coming out of this slump, but he's definitely flowing with the performances he's been putting up over the last few weeks here. And the 5th and final hitter following this week's Trevor Story of the Colorado Rockies. So Story, another player on a contract season, and another guy in trade rumors with supposedly 6 to 8 teams in talks with the Rockies trying to make a late push and a deal before next week's trade deadline. And on the season here for Story, 11 home runs, 43 RBI, 17 stolen bases, which is definitely valuable in fantasy baseball and Major League Baseball, where stealing bases is pretty much a lost art. 43 runs scored, a 243 average, and a 316 on base. But the last couple weeks here, he's done nothing at all. No homers, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored, a stolen base, a 161 average, and a 250 on base. And the last month here for him hasn't been any better. 5 homers, 14 RBIs, 9 runs scored, a 198 average, and a 264 on base. So right here, he's not producing. Maybe he's pressing because of the contract season. And now with the trade rumors swirling as well, it's another reason he could be struggling. But the whole season, for the most part, he's been struggling his Story, and he's been a bust for sure this season, where he got picked in the first, early second round of most fantasy drafts coming into the season. And the last few games here for Story: July 16th versus the Dodgers, 1 for 4. July 17th versus the Dodgers, 0 for 4. July 18th versus the Dodgers, 0 for 4 with an RBI. July 20th versus Seattle, 1 for 4. July 21st versus Seattle, 1 for 4 with a run. So right here, his strikeout numbers are up there as well. And he's just not putting the ball in play. And he's definitely pressing a lot here, is Story, with 8 strikeouts in his last 3 games. So that's a few hitters here falling in week 15 of the fantasy baseball season.